Hello and welcome to episode 211 of the Cincinnati Soccer Talk podcast. This is your host, Brian Weigel, welcoming you into a week where we're actually going to talk a lot about soccer. So that's all exciting here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are very excited to have you for this episode. I would like to call it a special episode, but I kind of talk up every episode, and it's special because we got two OGs and Clay Winstead joining me tonight. First, that was that great voice you heard there. The wonderful Clay Winstead, my partner in crime. Clay, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. This is the first time I've been on a podcast where we have an actual game to talk about. I'm excited.
Yeah, and three gingers, so that's kind of cool too. So
look at that.
Hey, and look at that specialist. Speaking of another ginger, Brad Weigel, my evil nemesis, evil twin. How are you?
Was that your high-pitched voice or Clay's high-pitched voice?
I don't know, but your hair looks pretty rough over there, pal, if you can't see on the video. It didn't look like he actually showed up for this podcast prepared. Maybe jumped on about 8 minutes before the show was about to start. So welcome in, Brad.
Dude, I'm just putting Mr. Suberling through the ringer.
Mm-hmm. And putting Mr. Suberling through the ringer. My computer takes a dump at 8:59 and 30 seconds. Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, how are you?
I'm doing good. That's why I don't get on to the last minute. So, so got to save up all the technical difficulties for you guys. But I'm here. I'm back. My office is actually my podcast studio again. I moved all my computer stuff out, went back to work. So it feels good. It feels good to actually have a studio that's mine again and not my company's.
Yes, it is very nice to return to work. I guess this is my second full week back, so it's always nice to be there. Of course, we are joined behind the producer's glass by the CEO, El Presidente, Commander-in-Chief, Nick Suberling. I'm not going to drop that awful name on you that those other two degenerate podcasters do to you. No, I'm joking. Those are great guys, too.
Make CST great again.
That's awful. But all right, so we are going ahead after that. We have a awesome show to talk about because, gentlemen, MLS is back. The best branding of all professional sports, Major League Soccer, decides to rename their tournament MLS is Back tournament. So congrats to those $1 million makers there. But we are excited. This is going to be a regular season match that still is honestly going to be a little bit less than a month away. When you look at the whole schedule, guys, just think about what we've all gone through as fans of FC Cincinnati, soccer fans in the United States. We will legitimately have had, from the last game of 2019 through this first game, we will gone literally 9 months and have only had two FC Cincinnati games that we will have been able to have seen in that whole time. So 3/4 of the year, we've seen two FC Cincinnati games. So props to you sticking through this. We're all going to be back. We're all going to have fun. So let's dive down into this fun, shall we? So guys, you know what, Clay? You're the masterminds behind this operation. You planted the seed to MLS, and you should get royalties. Don Garber, write that check to Cincinnati Soccer Talk so I can cash it first and give him like 5%. But
my DMs are open, Don Garber.
DMs are open. Let's go. Run down the format real quick of what we're going to expect in the tournament down in Orlando.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, it didn't take any of the ideas I gave him, but I'll get over it. Basically, what we're looking at is a pretty classic group stage that we're familiar with in a lot of like FIFA World Cup, UEFA Champions League. The numbers are a little weird because the league is a little oddly numbered. So we have one big group of 6, then we have 5 groups of 5, 5 groups of 4. Excuse me. So they picked the top seeds. Orlando is the host. They had Atlanta, Toronto, Seattle, LAFC, and Real Salt Lake, and they got to draw their opponents. And so we'll go through the order here in a minute, but basically then after that, every top 2 seed advances, pretty standard, and the 4 best third place teams. So then after that, it's exactly what you expect. Round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and a final. And the final will win a spot in the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League.
Big ticket item right there. And this is all, of course, going to be, I think it's like 54 games over the span of a month. Brad, can you walk them through the dates of what we're going to expect to see?
Yeah. Group stage is going to run from July 8th, shortly after the July 4th holiday. We're hoping maybe to get started for, but looks like that'll run for almost 2 weeks. a little over 2 weeks to the 24th. Everybody's going to be playing a game probably once every 5 days. Knockout rounds will follow the 25th through the 28th. Quarterfinals will be right around August 1st with the semis 5 days later, and ultimately the final on August 11th.
Which is kind of weird. It's a Tuesday final. And I know Boston, we kind of had some thoughts. What do you make of it being a cup final on a Tuesday night in August?
I thought it's weird because I was like, wait, MLS is going to have center stage. They're going to be one of the few leagues back. You know, you got NWSL, but that's on CBS All Access. And that's really we're under 2 weeks from that launch. So that's pretty awesome. And then baseball, maybe. But I think at that point you are getting in NFL territory, and you probably, if I'm Major League Soccer, trying to dodge the football hype. Tuesday works for me.
Not only that, but the NBA is going to be starting the playoffs there too. They'll be at Disney. So maybe the Tuesday was a way that they could get a night without basketball, which would be huge for their ratings.
Yeah.
I mean, how about every game being on network television? When's the last time Major League Soccer games were on network television?
That's
huge. You just get a couple. FCC's had, 2 last year? We were scheduled for maybe 1 this year. Now,
we'll probably get 3.
Whole tournament. We'll get 3 for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We'll dive into that here in the TV section in a second. But listeners, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, watching, listening, and you want to call in, we do have the phone lines wide open this evening. 513-399-KICK. 513-399-KICK if you want to discuss Orlando, if you wanted to discuss any other topics out there, Jurgen Locadia, who knows, even Fabian Johnson. We are here to talk to you about all that tonight. 513-399-KICK on the Kings Hammer hotline. Clay mentioned it earlier. What's at stake? $1.1 million purse to, I believe, the top 2 teams. That it hasn't been officially come out, but there's going to be some incentive there for the players. Of course, the CONCACAF Champions League spot, which is some money for the clubs. And then, of course, the big deal for FC Cincinnati. I don't know if we'll get to the finals or not, but the results from the first 3 group matches count towards the regular season. So that could be great. That could be bad, disastrous. Yeah. TV, we were discussing that earlier. All the matches are going to be nationally televised on the partners ESPN Plus, Fox Sports, ESPN, and Univision. I don't know how that's all going to break down yet. That should be coming out this week. They've been reporting that we should have the schedule and all that stuff, so you can book your tickets to the backyard or your favorite bar, not to Orlando, to check out your games. So it should be pretty exciting. MLS did come out and say that they're going to have a unique strategy for producing these games. There's going to be unique angles, different technologies, virtual displays on the field, new camera positions, even integrating audio from fans and other things that you might have seen or may not have seen in the Bundesliga. I'm not sure what the EPL is going to be doing yet, but it should be exciting, a new challenge for the national broadcast partners. Now, Brad, we've all been discussing this. I think you were on a show where we talked about how is it going to look when you are in not an empty field, but a small stadium. How's MLS going to look on that small stadium in Florida versus, at Spurs Stadium that EPL is going to have?
Ooh, I think it's up to the league to make it look interesting. Because there's no hiding. I mean, there's no fans, empty stadiums, no atmosphere. I don't think they're going to be pushing stadium noise into that little arena. Just not going to make sense. But I think Garber's talked about different camera angles, so I think it's incumbent upon the teams or the league to make it interesting. I'm more worried about the quality of play and how that's going to look. You're seeing the German league's been back for about almost a month now. They're starting to get into high gear. EPL's back, this week. All these leagues are starting to do well. How's it going to compare? Because it's not going to meet those, but I hope they can put a good professional face on it.
Keep it zoomed in, really. I mean, that's my advice. I think you'll see a lot of that. How do you not remind people that you're in a small stadium in Florida? You just don't show the small stadium in Florida. Reminds me a lot of actually FC Cincinnati games. If you think about it, Nippert Stadium, we had that poor angle. You don't actually get a lot of stands in the frame.
How about a supporter section of just like Disney mascots? You've got like Goofy back there. You got, you could have like an all princess section for the younger female fans, who love that. You can have like Mickey and Minnie on both sides of the goal, or maybe, back behind the goal if there's a PK or something going on. You can make it a little interesting. Might as well have fun with it, right? It's at Disney.
It's COVID friendly. Full. You don't talk about face masks. So you get a whole face mask plus
Full head.
helmet.
Hey, as long as Jaap Stam is mic'd up, that's what I need. I need to hear him yelling his face off on the sidelines. I want to see him and like Bob Bradley just shouting at whoever because they're not going to play together.
He speaks several languages, so you might hear some cuss words out there that aren't in English. That's definitely going to be entertaining.
What's Dutch for? Oh, not again.
When I heard multiple camera angles, I was just in my mind picturing like the 5 versions of a Waston slap we can see, just like as he slaps, and then they go to replay, and it's just like side, back, forward, and we can just get the full. We
need
picture.
a Waston slap cam specifically.
It's 360.
Yeah, I'll tell it. After watching Instagram, Waston's not the only player on the team who can do a little slapping.
Oh.
No, I missed this. I don't even know what you're talking about.
God, yeah. That's a segue I wasn't getting into yet.
I did see that. I did see that.
We went there today.
Dude, I can't tell you how many people driving to work on Tuesday morning just spit out their coffees at that comment. Oh, wow. Brad, I missed you guys. I really did. I love Warner and Clay, but man, you guys are something else.
Wow.
So you guys,
God, those bus
fans
tires really
back on
hurt
the
my
rail.
back there. Jeez.
I love you, Clay. As we said, it's going to be a experience. We don't know exactly if some games on Fox Sports, some games are Univision, if you'll be able to watch those on ESPN Plus or ESPN Plus, however my old man ultras like to say it. Love it. You're going to have opportunities to watch these matches where you get YouTube TV, live, Hulu Live TV, not on Flow Sports anymore. Apparently, they still have my email address after canceling after last season and offered me a refund. So I think I'm going to try and take it. We'll see how good their billing department is. So time of the matches are 9 a.m., which I believe is going to be an Eastern Conference teams. Just makes sense. 8 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. So Clay, we had talked about the format of this tournament. What do you make of the times for each of these games?
It's not ideal, I don't think, but it probably makes the most sense. I mean, we were talking before on this podcast about being worried about these guys training for 2 to 3 weeks before they show up in Florida. Another week or two, they barely get a month to get fit. And then you're throwing them into the heat and humidity of Florida, at least at 9, 8 p.m. and 10 p.m., or 10:30 p.m., I should say. Mm-hmm. You at least give them a chance to not play under the unbearable heat. Like I've been to Orlando in November, and I was walking and sweating my butt off. So, I mean, you got to find any way to mitigate those circumstances. So it's not ideal, but it's for the best for the players.
Yeah, and there is a big health issue to this.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the COVID-19, there's going to be massive testing in place. There are allowing different risk categories of players to sit at home, staff to not travel, not to be a part of this. So they are having those different things. The one thing I thought was very interesting, and you're making light of this, Clay, is the heat and humidity and what that is going to weigh on the players. And each club is only allowed an X amount of travel spots down to Orlando, including the players, including the coaching staff, administration. Each Extra Time Radio, MLSsoccer.com's podcast, mentioned that several teams were saying, you know what, second media guy or marketing person or whoever, you're not going. Massage therapist, second, third, fourth athletic trainer, they're all going. So I'm very interested to see how that helps teams stay fit in this whole thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit about the types of players and the teams that'll be able to thrive in that. Also, I'm sure there's going to be this that we're going to have to deal with at some point too. There haven't been made mention of it yet, but some players are going to sit out of this tournament. Chicharito, Carlos Vela, they have babies on the way. Harris Madunanan, I believe, has a baby due in August, July, August?
Soon.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that hurts. A couple new rules or some changes. Of course, you have the 5 substitutions over 3 stoppages in play, and those stoppage does not include halftime. So you're going to see line changes. We're going to have video-assisted referee, VAR. You're also going to see a yellow card accumulation over the 3 group stage matches. Of course, the one thing that people hate is during the knockout rounds, people accumulating some of those yellow cards and then missing a final or missing a semifinal. That's not going to be a part of this tournament, which I'm excited for. So, guys, we'll start with you, Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. What do you make of these changes, including allowing 23 players to be in your match day roster?
I think it's smart when you're playing as many games as these teams are going to, play back to back to back. And I know there'll be a break when you see that there's multiple games a day. There are obviously different teams playing, so there will be a break in between different matches for FC Cincinnati per se. But you still have a lot going on. Players are not up to 100% fitness. They used, I think Jimmy McLaughlin said today that FC Cincinnati used those individual training sessions to get match fit, to try to get the fitness level up. And now they're getting back to ball skills. So you're going to see a slight decline. It's just natural when you haven't been in your natural setting. So I think that's the big part of it, right? Is just keeping everybody safe. Just getting that time out there in 5 subs. I honestly don't know if we will ever go back to 3 subs. I think the new world order is gonna drop back to 4. 4 is probably the best I think you'll see.
Back to USL times, baby. Woo!
But I wouldn't be surprised to see FIFA change it completely. 4th sub for overtime. A lot of people have been calling for that concussion protocol stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm. It's just going to get more players more time on the ball in competitive situations. I think it's a no-brainer. I do have a slight worry, though, that it's just worldwide. It's going to affect richer clubs. Richer clubs are going to use it to their advantage, just because they're going to be able to get better players coming off that spot in the 5th, and maybe more like-for-like situations. In Major League Soccer, I don't know if you've got the roster space to do that, but maybe this is where you see some of the teams start to field those. The 2 teams are really start to prioritize the academy, so they can get some of those young guys time, develop their value. Also, those guys will be familiar with the system. So, we'll see with the Red Bulls, the 2 Red Bulls forwards, Barlow and I forget the other guys' names. They're almost like for like players. So, it'll help in a situation where they're almost swapping an identical guy. He's going to have fresh legs for the final 30, 35 minutes or so.
Analytically speaking, a substitute coming in the 60th minute is more likely to score than someone who's been playing 60 minutes. So I actually think as a viewer of soccer, it's only going to make a better product.
I'd like to see the statistical analysis of that when it's Jurgen Locadia versus Rashawn Dowley coming in. So, but
I don't mind like Zhao and Mane coming in as subs.
Sure.
And then you've got some players you can play with in the midfield. You could see some of our wing backs. You think of Gutman running in on defenses towards the end of the match if we're down a goal and we need something. Those are all exciting opportunities, but we'll see. We'll see what FC Cincinnati looks like through this whole tournament.
Yeah, and the one thing to note is, I guess Jaap Stam is notorious or known for at least subbing early and using all his subs.
Thank God. If I had to see Johan de May wait till the 79th minute to put his first sub on down 2-0, I will scream into a void and trash my television. I'm so happy.
You're still going to scream when our first sub goes out in the minute 29.
You know what? I'd rather them be proactive and take control of a game than just let a 2-0 lead be a 2-0 lead.
And I don't know if Brian mentioned that, but you still have you can only substitute players through 3 times, right?
Absolutely.
Now you get 5 subs, but
you get 3 substitution time frames. 4th in theory if you count halftime. Halftime does not count as one of those. So you could do say if we're down 2-0 versus New York Red Bull, we could sub somebody on in the 30th minute.
You could sub 3 on at 3 on at half. You could do a hockey line switch.
So it's going to be very interesting, guys. If you want to weigh in, 513-399-KICK, 513-399-KICK. It's that time of the show where we want to thank all of our tremendous supporters. Thank you guys so much for lasting through this difficult period for us here. We've seen you guys tune in. We've seen you guys download. We really do appreciate that. But thank you very much to these people individually. King's Hammer and Tim Bronsel, thank you so much for your tremendous support. Also, Tom Rose, Matt Adamczyk, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Kaling, and Tara Mullins. Thank you so much for your support. To learn more on how you can support the head over to cincinnatissoccertalk.com/support. So let's get into a little bit more down into this. Let's talk about the groups, shall we? So we had this tremendously awkward draw by Charlie Davies, and boy, he did as best he could there with that egg carton on top of his desk there with, I don't know what you call those spheres that had stuff in them, but yeah. Group A, which is the Bragg likes to call it the Gang of Six. Orlando, Miami, NYCFC, Philly, Chicago, and Nashville. It's probably the weakest group of the six here. In how the rules stand right now, it looks like two, maybe three of those groups two or three of those teams can advance. So that kind of puts that group at a little bit of a disadvantage here. Of course, you have that first match of the tournament from Orlando and Miami that's going to kick off down on July 8th. So that'll be an interesting start. I wouldn't say it's the most hype start. If I was doing this tournament, I probably would have put a little bit more of a premier matchup than that, but I get why they're doing it. Apparently Orlando's doing a ton to host this, allegedly. So interesting to see there. Group B, switching over to the Western Conference, is the Battle of the Midwest. You have Real Salt Lake, Sporting KC, Colorado, and Minnesota. Group C, the East Coast group, Toronto, New England, Montreal, and DC United. We have any claimings of things being rigged? Anybody? Group D, back to the West, Seattle, Dallas, Vancouver. So a little Cascadia rivalry there with Seattle and San Jose. Group E, the only group that really matters, Atlanta, FC Cincinnati, New York Red Bulls, and the Columbus I Hate Yous. And then Group F, LAFC, LA Galaxy, Houston, and Portland, which people actually have been calling the group of death. That's very, very difficult. So, guys, we'll start with Clay here. What was your initial reactions on that draw, sticking away from FC Cincinnati?
It's so interesting how every single group had a local rivalry drawn. It just was coincidence after coincidence. You know, you're getting Seattle, Vancouver, the El Trafico, Real Salt Lake in Colorado. I don't know.
Toronto, Montreal,
the Canadian Classique, It was generally speaking, I think they messed up in that they try to have best of both worlds. They try to have a draw. They had to try some marquee matchups. You really should have gone one way or the other. You know, really just stack the decks. Create interesting lineups, but make it like pretty even, like with tiers for a draw, or just say, you know, it's all going to be local. We're just going to focus on rivalries to start. And I think they kind of try to
got every rivalry they wanted. Like Seattle, Vancouver is nothing.
No, I think
Portland.
Tinfoil hat here. Portland.
Wow, you did it wrong again, pal.
I did. The Portland not being with Seattle was them trying to throw us off the scent. They're like, well, if we tried to rig it, of course we put Seattle and Portland. I saw right through
in the
it.
Conspiracy world, aren't you?
I mean, you're telling me that some guy's smart enough and rich enough to spend $500 million on an MLS expansion fee, but that the league cannot figure out to not play teams that they played 2 matches already this year? Come on! What the hell? We literally just played the Red Bulls in Atlanta. They cannot somehow figure that out. I mean, people can do this all the time. Open Cup can figure it out. Other people can do that. That's my biggest gripe. Now, I do like some of the matchups, LA Galaxy, LAFC. I'll watch that one. You know, pretty much, anything Seattle. I'll watch those. But you know what? Group A is about as, dangerous as the biker gang of little girls in my neighborhood right now, so I'll probably just skip that day.
Brad, what are you talking about? I personally get all my news from Nashville, and I heard that Group A is basically team 1 through 6, the toughest team in Major League Soccer.
My God, Nashville get the hardest draw. Come on, guys. Harder than what they had to face in the USL last year. Come on.
It really should have done pots like UEFA.
It's not that hard.
Certain teams from playing each other that have already played. You really set up marquee matchups. You have a pretty clear delineation between the top 2 and the bottom 2. But instead, you get some groups that are great, like Group F, and then you get Group A.
You're telling me they couldn't one day prime Charlie Davies some fish bowls or something? Come on.
Overall,
Charlie, what random crap do you have laying around your house that we can use for this?
overall, I don't have a problem with the bracket. I think you're going to get some, no matter how you draw it, you're going to get some local rivalries. You're going to miss some,
sure.
like Seattle Portland. The one thing that does stick out is Group A and how it is 6 teams for some odd reason. If you do the math, like throw out whether the teams are good or not. If you do the math, only likely 2 teams will advance from Group A, maybe 3 teams. But even if 3 teams advance, that's still 3 teams that get left out compared to most groups will only have 1 team left out for sure. Well, they all will have 1 team left out for sure, but there's a better chance for that 3rd team in any other group besides Group A.
And
So
some of those teams of Group A won't get to play each other. So
correct.
you're
Yeah,
not giving everyone a fair shake to get out of the group.
it is a very weird setup, and if you've been online today, there's been a lot of articles coming out about how to fix these, how to fix Group A, how to fix that problem. There's really some good suggestions out there. That's my one, like, I'm actually really happy with the draw. I'm okay with some of the groups being tougher, some of them not being that tough. Even FC Cincinnati being stuck with Atlanta and Red Bulls, that's to me just luck of the draw. But the setup of Group A is strange, and I'm glad we're not in there because mathematically we would be screwed.
Yeah, and what you're referencing, and people have come out and said, let's just take the top 3 teams in Group A, and then maybe allow the 4th team in Group A. You basically just take away one of those guaranteed spots. So, or not guaranteed spots, but one of the other spots for those other 5 groups. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens out of Group A. If you guys want to call in, give us your thoughts on that group or the whole format in general. 513-399-KICK, 513-399-KICK. So let's talk about the draw of FC Cincinnati. As Brad mentioned earlier, you have 2 teams that we literally just played in week 1 and 2 in New York Red Bull and Atlanta United. Some say that's good. Some say that's bad. We lost both those games, but we also had moments where we thought, we don't look as bad as we thought we were going to. So Boston, what was your original thought when you saw, well, first off, we were that first team to play Atlanta United?
That's a tough one. FC Cincinnati has struggled against Atlanta. Granted, it's one that there was a draw in Atlanta last year, a loss in Atlanta this year, but only by a goal, and then they've kicked our butts at home. So I'm glad they're not playing here. but I think that's to me that's a loss. It is possible it's a draw or theoretically a win. I'm going to go ahead, and even if FC Cincinnati advances, just give that one a no.
Well, Brad, what do you think about his take on that? Because I look at Atlanta and I say this is a team that's unfamiliar with itself because Joseph Martinez, who they relied on, yes, you have Barco and Pity Martinez that are quality players, but they relied on him, and now they have to redefine themselves after doing that last year. Now they have to redefine themselves again with maybe Adam John up front.
They're a wild card, but I think they're going to use this time to reshape how they play. I think that Barco and Pity, even though they're wonderful players on their own, they knew that it was Joseph Martinez's team. And in the 1 week of preparation they had before they played FC Cincinnati week 2, they were just figuring stuff out. They didn't have any time to really prepare and build a system around it. So now I think we're going to face a different Atlanta team here. It's going to be a team that's going to attack differently, going to play a little bit differently. They're not going to have that pressure of, knowing that they've got to get the ball to Joseph. If he doesn't score, bad things, could happen. So I think it might free those 2 players up to possibly make Atlanta even more dangerous. But we'll see. Adam John is not the same player, and I don't think that I would be shocked if come the start of the tournament that he's their starting option at striker.
I do expect we're going to see a very different Atlanta team, but is it possible that playing New York Red Bulls that they haven't had much turnover, where a lot of injuries since we played them season opener, having that tape recently, particularly for a new coach like Jaap Stam, having recent film to look at how we played against them. And we had a really good second half against New York Red Bulls. having that film might actually prove to be an advantage. I know it's boring to see that matchup again, but it could help the team.
Forget the film. You had Frankie Amaya learning on the fly and how to adjust in those scenarios. So before we jump into Columbus here, and I'll throw it to you, Brad, and once we're done with this, but we do have a phone call on the King's Hammer hotline I want to throw it to. So I know this guy, he's been dealing with a troublemaking toddler this evening. So I'm going to try to value his time here. Travis, how you doing, buddy? You have a question for us about Fabian Johnson?
Yeah, how we doing, guys?
Doing well, Lion. How are you?
I want, not too bad. I ran away from the toddler just for a minute. I wanted to call in. I haven't had a chance to listen tonight, but I wanted to get your guys' honest take on kind of what's the drawback for you guys. Let's say FC Cincinnati does reach a deal with Fabian Johnson. It's a TAM deal. It's a year and a half. Do you think he's an upgrade at right wing? Do you think he's an upgrade at outside fullback? And kind of get your guys' take on it.
Brad or Boston, Clay, either of you guys.
Yeah, thank you for calling, Travis. Nonetheless, I'm thankful for your question. I'm not as excited about the Fabian Johnson move. You're going to be committing a lot of money, so all of a sudden now you've got like 3 TAM players that are 32 and above, with Medullian, Michael Vanderwerf, and then you would have Fabian Johnson. So those are elevated guys that you want to be difference makers in this league, and I'm not sure that those age groups, it's been a proven spot. I don't like Fabian. He hasn't been able to stay on the field since 2017. And honestly, I don't think we need to be spending TAM level money if, let's say he ended up not working out necessarily on the right wing, having him drop back and play, right wing back. I just don't see the dollar value in a transaction for him.
What do you think of him, Travis?
I think if you can get a guy like Fabian Johnson who has the experience he has, and if we're being honest, he's a clear upgrade, probably over Regaton at right wing. I don't know that he would play there. You probably put him at the left wing, move Kubo to right wing, but I think you upgrade there. I know Ken Hoker said something really interesting I hadn't even thought about on Twitter, where you bring Fabian in and you can play wing, but then you can play more of a 4-1-4-1, where Medina can still play the deep line playmaker. You put 4 guys essentially in the midfield, and he becomes stronger defensively in the midfield because you have a guy who played wing back a lot of his career now playing the wing and being in the midfield. Then you let Sim de Jong kind of run ramp shot in the midfield with Cruz supporting him and then Locati up top. So I really like the idea if they sign Fabian, either put him in outside back, maybe replace Duplan on the right side, even though I know Brad loves, Duplan, but everybody knows my feelings on Matthew. But
two bad games does not make a bad player. Yeah, 2 bad games does not make a bad player, Duplan. But sorry, Travis, just to kind of to cut you off here. Fabian Johnson is 32. He can't stay on the field. Now you're going to be in a condensed schedule. You're going to be paying a guy a ton of money to be a difference maker. You want your difference maker to play 95% of the games. And Fabian, I think 60% of your games would be asking a lot out of him. You're playing on turf. You're going to be traveling all over the place. You got a condensed schedule. I just don't think it makes sense. I think a lot of people think 2 years ago, yes, FC Cincinnati was interested in Fabian Johnson. They wanted to bring him in 2018 so he could play this year. But that whole regime is gone. Nobody's the same there. So I don't see it for a multitude of reasons. I think he's too old, too expensive. You're not going to be able to get enough minutes on the pitch for what you're going to play him. I think I trust Nijkamp to do a lot better.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the call, Travis. And said, you ain't lying. Travis is the lead voice, the head man, the host, the rumor monger in chief of FC Cincinnati. You ain't lying, Travis, man. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
I want to touch on Fabian real quick. Just a couple things. You mentioned this, Brad, I think a little bit. Yeah, he is old, but he does bring a value to the team where he can play a multitude of different positions. Whether we get into a congested schedule, somebody does get hurt, maybe it's not him. He can play right wing, left wing, right back, left back. So I think having a guy with those skill sets, kind of like a Duplan who can move around a little bit, is valuable in this condensed season. But another thing that might hurt on him, and we were talking to Ken Hetker about this when we were looking at, okay, there's been talk of bringing in another designated player, whether that's this upcoming transfer window or next year. But you look at how the salary cap is structured, and I believe how they take it is per game. So say he plays, you sign a contract and he's available for 30 games. So his cap hit is those matches. Or, you bring him in the summer window and he's available for 17 or 14, whatever it is. That's how his cap hit is structured. It's going to be very difficult for some teams to bring in designated players or high paid players right now because there's still a whole season left. And we don't know how they're going to structure the salary cap specifically. Maybe they give them some relief, but you're taking away some of that roster flexibility and trying to bring some of these high dollar guys that you were maybe budgeting to bring in a third DP at maybe half his designated player cap hit value. So that could be, where bringing in a TAM guy or bringing in a DP maybe might not make sense, where you're hoping to bring in two. Now you're only going to bring in one of those. So that's something to think about right there. Brad, you're a salary cap guy too.
Dude, I know. I haven't even thought about the salary cap for a while. I'm trying to even find it here on my.
It's okay. Clay, were you saying something?
Yeah. Do we even know when the transfer window is going to be right now?
Exactly.
We have rumors, but it seems pretty obvious at this point that no one's going to be able to add people before the Orlando tournament. So maybe you get August after the tournament's over, before regular season resumes. Who knows?
I wouldn't say obvious.
Garber said it that they were staying the same.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's obvious because you still have to, I don't say quarantine is the right word. You do have to limit yourself a little bit in time. So if you're bringing somebody over from Europe or that could be a challenge for FC Cincinnati or any of these teams. In all reality, Miami, they're first in or I guess in theory, LAFC's first in the allocation order. They're going to be bringing in Andy Nahar. Then you have would be Inter Miami is second in the allocation order, and there's been a rumor with them and Fabian Johnson, and then FC Cincinnati would be third in that process. So we'll see what happens.
I still expect Nykamp to make moves. He's still reshaping this roster.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of spots and improvements he can make.
We'll get into that
a lot
here
of
in a
players
little bit.
Coming off. I just don't think a guy who's last start was January, and then the start before that was in August of 2019 is the guy we should be bringing in.
Sure. All right, guys. So let's finish up the topic. Thank you very much, Travis, for the phone call on the King's Hammer hotline. We were discussing FC Cincinnati's group. We had discussed Atlanta. We had discussed New York. But then we have Hell is Real.
Oh, yeah.
Columbus Crew SC. When you saw that draw in Boston, were you like, oh, hell? Or were you like, all right?
No, I like the draw. Columbus is a team I feel like FC Cincinnati can play. We drew there last year and we were terrible. They were terrible. We both kind of had to do this rebuild. I want to see who did it better. Is Lacadia better than Zardes?
Is Lacadia better than Adi?
Yeah, their backup is Adi. Then you got Derek Etienne Jr. on the team, who's thrown out some words about not getting playing time. We don't really know. I think it's directed at both New York and FC Cincinnati. So there's blood. And it kind of gives me just a taste of that old Louisville blood. It's nowhere near that level yet as far as the fan bases and the front office vitriol, but I see it just barely, just with the players and the setup.
To me, Columbus is the team that I'm most scared of, and it has nothing to do with our Hell is Real rivalry. I mean, you've got in a tournament, you want to have, especially with such a large laugh, you want to have two guys who can control the game. And Columbus has two perfect players. You got Darlington Nagbe, who's going to work all over the field. He's going to break up play, and then you got Zella Ryan, who is going to be an absolute beast. He's going to create the possession. He's going to be the metronome of their offense, and they've got some flexibility. They can maybe sit back if they want and counter, which I don't think that's what they're going to do, or they could get up the field and dictate play. And that defense looks to be improved. Room, their goalie, is a beast, and I want to say something like the second half of the season last year, they had like the top 5 most points in the league, if not higher than that. That was like top 3 most points in the league the second half of the season last year. So it's a team, as we can say, on the rise, and I would put money on them as the favorite to win the group.
Don't steal my
Brad,
thunder.
that yellow kit's poking out underneath your orange
Hey.
and blue one. You might want to put it back in there.
Austin, I picked those guys to be the dark horse Eastern Conference champion. So I think Brad's right there. The only thing that works and maybe works into our favor, Brad.
Timeout. Subs, can you notate that? Put a sound bite. Brad's right there.
Ha! That'll be my intro.
I do
Never gonna
think
say that
though,
again.
I will say, talk about Columbus. I think you're right, Brad, that they are. We're gonna pile it on.
No!
I think Columbus definitely has a good shot at this. But what I think is interesting, I think this is probably the most wide open group. Atlanta is very good, but they're missing their lead striker. New York Red Bulls, they're missing a lot of their key players from the last 5 years. They're young though, so they could be really good. They could be really bad. FCC's, probably the weakest of the bunch, but
Clearly.
Oh, without a doubt. But, maybe they get a point or two, they make it competitive. And then Columbus, they look really good on paper, and Porter's tactics probably fit a tournament well, but we haven't seen it yet. So I think there's just a lot of room here. I think it's hard to bet on who the two are going to make it out. It's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm. Now, we'll go back to Boston here. To advance, FC Cincinnati, do you think they're going to play more wide open style? Do you think they're going to have, Amaya and Cruz press the hell out of everybody? Or are we going to be a bunker and counter team?
This one's one that's weird, and I've been thinking about it, and I honestly am confused for one of the first times. And when it comes to a new coach, how he's going to handle these players, who he's even going to put on the field. We saw Paul put an article out today. Some people liked it. Some people were very, very unhappy with it, saying play young. I think we think we'll be having more of a counter opinion on that tomorrow. Saying play your best, I think without having read it yet, but that's kind of where we're at in this confusion field. I think other clubs have wrote us off. I've been to the Columbus Crews subreddit where their fans are literally talking about whether Atlanta or New York is the one they need to overcome, whether they'll be one or two. And so those conversations almost give me just a tad bit of hope, because you're talking about if the fans are doing it, the clubs are doing it. The coaches are going to try to remind the players, hey, it's FC Cincinnati. Yeah, they haven't done well in the last year and a half, but you need to focus on them. But those players are thinking, okay, Atlanta's the team we need to beat. New York's the team we need to beat. We just need to get through this FC Cincinnati game. I think that is a small moment of strength there.
I'm very interested to see how they draw up the schedule. Because I like the fact that we play Atlanta first, because they're still figuring themselves out. And then in theory, you think, so we're number 2. So Atlanta plays us first, and then Atlanta maybe would play number 3, which is New York. Mm-hmm. And then so that means we play, in theory, Columbus second. And they're still also trying to figure themselves out. So there's a lot of question marks here, but I just, looking at it, I try to have our 2 midfielders press the hell out of those guys. And we don't even know what Sem Diong's going to be like in his role, or Harris Madunanen. But I'd like us to see maybe if we can kind of turn the ball over a little bit higher up the pitch. But I don't know. Do you guys have any opposing thoughts on that?
I just want to see the team play with a set identity that we know.
But
yes. What?
But the tournament in this style is going. I can't imagine we're going to play the exact same way in this as we do 2 months from now.
Honestly, I don't know if we can really say. We have no idea what Stom's idea is right now. I mean, we can rely on what he's done at Reading or Feyenoord, but he might take a tournament-only approach. He might want to set his philosophy down right away and give the team familiarity. We just won't know until we see it.
What's the benefit of treating this something different? Why? Why would you want to treat this differently? The first 3 games count towards the points. No, I don't care.
Can you get your desired style set up in 3 weeks? That's a challenge. So maybe all the little intricacies he won't add, but maybe he has a base in what we've been talking about, the Dutch 4-3-3 system, all these things we've been preaching. There's another argument to be had is, has DeMay been setting him up or setting the team up exactly how Stom would want?
We've been here before. We played in U.S. Open Cup where we were a minority. Well, not. I guess it's we were the
We're
team
an
that
underdog.
lose. Yeah, we're the underdog, and we've done this whole thing once before, and we did pretty well. But we changed our entire philosophy. We ran around the USL playing with stars and out shooting and everyone for the most part, and then you get to the US Open Cup, and the identity completely shifts. That's a tournament. It's separate. You do what you do to survive.
Yes. I don't care about playing pretty soccer right now. I care about putting points on the board. The fans can no longer, we will not put up with, 3 points in 11 matches because Johan was being told he had to figure out who we had. That's crap. That's garbage. No, we cannot do that. We need to be proactive out there. But I want them to be tough and be proactive, but also still understand what we got to do on the field. So Stom has been known to be a counterattacking guy. Okay, so you know what? Let's set up that way, and let's put the right team on the field out there, even if that means we've got to leave Harris Medellin in on the field. Or you know what, Frankie Amaya, he's had a really nice first 2 matches, but you know what? Maybe Stom sees him more as a bench role right now, and then you kind of phase him in. But I don't want to see us, do necessarily one thing just because it's a tournament. I want us to, play a style, ingrain that, and we start to see some sort of identity, whether we're a tough team to break down, we're going to hit you on the counter, go that way. And let's just stay that way and get some damn points on the board.
Well, there's going to be a lot to discuss kind of going into this over the next 3-4 weeks before we start to play, and we'll make sure to run down. We have all these different ways to cover this tournament. I know Clay's been getting a lot of scouting reports together. We were trying to throw that all together today. I appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk about our favorite games, different analysis of groups. Make sure to check out Brad and Boston's show, March to Match Day. They're going to have a lot to discuss on this. Coach Brad Goff show, Talking Tactics with Coach Goff. He's going to talk about how the 5 substitution rule will apply in this tournament. So make sure to check out all of our podcasts coming up. We should have a lot of content for you guys to check out, and we are going to really do a deep dive into this tournament for you guys. A couple miscellaneous things before we go into our grab bag of listener questions. FC Cincinnati returned to practice today. The first day back in 95 days was the first team session today down at the Mercy Hill Training Center. A lot of the guys are talking about it as like the first day of school. It's like Christmas. It was just amazing to get back out in the field. And now, Tuesday, the 16th, it looks like Jaap Stam will be kind of taking over the reins for the first time. He and assistant coach Picotti were quarantining, I guess, this past week, and hopefully will be approved by medical staff to oversee training for the first time as members of the Orange and Blue. So that'll be very exciting to see what comments he has. Go check out CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. We might have a story for you there. And guys, I guess we'll talk about this here in a minute. So I guess let's kind of dive down into the listener questions because these 2 next questions would touch into that. So we are going to add a different section here. We're going to bring back the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Suberling, the man off screen. He's going to read your listener questions.
I will do my best to be the announcer.
You sound so much better than me.
Oh, it's like Velvet. It's like listening to Velvet.
Shut up, Clay.
Okay. Anyway, let's go to some of these listener questions. This first one is from Matt Rock on Twitter. What are the transfer rules for this year, and do FC Cincinnati have any targets?
Matt, you still got to play within the same rules until we hear differently. FC Cincinnati still does have some of the burdens of the past. They're still carrying Audie's contract, except for the small part Columbus Crew are paying. We believe they're still paying for Maddox, even though he's not on the team. So some of that stuff is on FC Cincinnati's books. And so that's one thing I'm hoping we can get Ken or Brad to get out here soon and just kind of remind everybody where we are cap-wise. And Brad, do you remember what we put together there right before the season started? Because we had it pretty much down. There is room, but there's not a ton of room.
Yeah, I think I honestly, I don't think you're going to see Ken and I come out with something until we see what that new CBA comes out and look what that looks like.
Yeah.
But you can go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/roster or /budget. What is it, Subs?
That needs to be updated, by the way.
Yeah.
Big time. Because we are giving, I believe, a Kubo as a, or not to Kubo, Cruz as TAM, and he's not. So I believe we're about, I don't know, 600 grand in TAM and 700 grand in cap space left. So we do have some room. So I had that. That's just all guess.
I think I got like $716,000.
Yeah, Brad had it right. It was CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/roster, and that'll take you to the salary budget tracker that Ken and Brad put together.
At least the one I'm looking at, we've got Cruz as a DP on that.
Yeah.
So looks like we got about 716. We're almost out of GAM. We do have about $600,000 in TAM as well. So between that leaves about $1.5 million that you can put towards, the cap hit and what you can use to buy down. So I think we still have room. The issues that we have are international spots and senior roster spots. I think we really only have about two of those available.
All right, this next question, I think Brian wanted me to read these emails because this person particularly emailed in. It's my good friend, Liverpool is superior to Man U. And they certainly are for the 2020 season. He wants to know over under 1.5 points for FC Cincinnati in group stage of the MLS is Back tournament.
Let's do all four of us, and we'll start with Clay first.
Over, because I do think they can get 2 draws, and if they get 2 points.
Boston.
Yeah, I'll check an over on 1.5. I'll even say FC Cincinnati finishes third and advances out of the group stage.
Woo! Brad?
Under.
Under.
I agree. I'm under as well.
Good. We had a good split. I was worried there for a minute.
No, there was no split. I broke the deadlock. It's definitely under. All right,
Love it.
And this next one is from Brett Schroetz. He says, was DJ Schweitzer at wrong side of pond a DP signing or a TAM signing? Do you plan on buying him down for another DP in the future? Also, when will he take over hosting duties?
What? Ooh!
Brett,
I mean,
no longer
Brian's
friends on
just a
Twitter.
GAM signing punching above his weight right now, right?
I guess technically, if you think about it, wasn't Subs the DP we bought down to TAM? And then we brought in DJ?
I'm Darren Maddox. I'm a GAM player, but I'm going to make a mistake and find my way outside looking in.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
I guess I got to edit that out. It's not a show without Brad while I go cussing. Right.
Well, he does have his
still
own
waiting.
show, so it kind of saves Brian. We got it's like Coach or me and Brad are not going to take over hosting because we already have our own show, so we're not even in contention.
Wait, should I be worried right now? Oh no.
We are very excited to have DJ Schweitzer join the crew. He is definitely a designated player signing. We at least have 2 designated players with him and Jeff Wallner. I think we got a lot of TAM contracts, and then we got Clay making the
Homegrown.
home. So
I'm homegrown. There we go. I'm Frankie Maya.
Yeah, Frankie Maya. So we'll give you a Jen Adidas contract, make you feel okay about yourself, right?
And then this last question comes from Andrew Torres. He says, what about Timothy Chandler? Similar type of player to Johnson without the large injury risk. Are they really that similar, though? I thought Chandler was more of a traditional right back versus a right back attacking player.
Can we stop talking about signing players from the Jurgen Klinsmann era of the U.S. men's national team? I'm not watching the 2014 World Cup anymore.
I love Jermaine Jones, though.
Yeah, but now is he 50? What's going on? What are we talking about? Let's talk about players who are good now. I'm tired of Fabian Johnson talk. I'm tired of Timothy Chandler talk. Mario Götze hasn't been good since 2014.
Timothy Chandler's a beast.
Is he though?
Yes.
I'm just not paying I'm just not paying $5 million for a right back in Major League Soccer. A DP needs to be an attacking player that's going to make a difference. And that should be pretty much how it is with most of your TAM players too. Maybe you have a TAM center back or something, but I feel like that you don't pay, unless he's absolutely unbelievable, you don't pay your second baseman in baseball $1 trillion. You put it on your home run hitters, your shortstop, first base, home run hitter. What?
Aces.
Yeah,
nobody's paying anything in baseball at the moment. So.
So sad.
Anyway, that's all the questions. Thanks so much for your feedback at Cincy Soccer Talk on Twitter. And, of course, you can always email us at feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Back to you, Bri.
How did that feel, buddy? You like being on here?
It was like old times, man. Appreciate you having me on.
We had a scheduling conflict. My family does a ladies' night out once a month, and it falls on, I believe, the second Monday traditionally. And we almost had a Subs back as the host role. So he's the main man. So happy to have him
Was
back.
happy to fill in if you needed me to. I know you got a lot going on. So thanks for having me.
Speaking of things going on, I have a bunch of boxes in front of my door here because my daughter will not go to bed, and I heard her banging on the wall earlier. I hope you guys didn't hear that. I'm like, oh God. She's so cute though. So I don't know. She got her looks from her mother. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 211 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Please feel free to send us your comments every week at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Give us your thoughts on our show. Give us your thoughts for Coach Brad Goff. You know, he has such a great show, great beer reviews on that show. So go check that out. Talking Tactics with Coach Goff. Guys, it's time to dig down and get our final thoughts for the evening. So I'm going to let the other twin, Brad Weigel, lead us off for this evening with your final thought. Go ahead.
Now you finally throw it to me first.
You were first our whole lives, pal.
Yeah, damn right. You better not forget about that. Okay, final thoughts. You know, I am, party up top, but I'm serious down below. You can't see them, but I'm wearing my Tottenham shorts. They're going to kick some Man United butt Friday.
Come on, you
go,
Spurs!
Blues. Come on, let's go!
Come on, you
Can we
Spurs!
fast forward through this? Can we
got
fast
DJ
forward through this
Schweitzer.
crap?
He's just adding to the Lily White total here. Here we go.
Let's do it.
You've never been to a game. I don't know how you can be a fan.
Locked in.
Yeah. Are they going to underperform in that game too, like they have all season?
Dude, man, I'm telling you what, they've had the worst luck this year with injuries, everything. They're due. They are going to come back.
When Man United whoops them in their first match back, I'm like,
dude, Man United has been underperforming for the last 5 years, so suck it, Brian. We were in the Champions League final. We'll be just fine.
Dude. I didn't realize Brian was going to start.
He's just a troll.
Kissing up to Subs.
It's all right. He's like a Sunderland guy who's now like an Everton guy who can't make up his damn mind guy. All he's trying to do is tear people. All he's trying to do is tear people down, Clay. Don't let him get to you, buddy. I see what happens every week.
I love how you're talking crap.
You remember who's on your side,
United?
Clay.
Isn't Man United above Spurs on the table this year?
For now.
Yeah,
for now.
No room to talk.
Nine more games, baby.
For now.
It doesn't lie, Brian.
For now.
I love how you guys have one good year and make a good run. Did you even win the league last year? No. Okay. Sorry. Love you. All right. Going to Boston Razzle Dazzle Brad.
Love you.
Lily White.
Is that what you? Is that how you talk to your little daughter?
Lily White.
Can I chime in real quick, Brian? My favorite.
Sure.
No, we can't. You're not a host anymore. You don't have the rights. You're the producer.
You know, I can mute you at any time. So my favorite part about sitting behind the scenes now is watching Boston's face just glaze over for the last 2 minutes as you three talk about the Premier League, because he could care absolutely less about that soccer.
I don't either. I just think it's hysterical that they think Tottenham's like a super club.
Boston thinks the game of soccer was invented in the United States in 2016.
No, right. He respects the Open Cup.
The Rhinos versus the Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Soccer was founded in Cincinnati for myself, and I don't need to go outside of it.
Austin, you have a final thought, buddy?
Yeah, speaking about outside of Cincinnati, actually, I want to encourage all of our fans to tune in. It's been kind of cool, despite my lack of love for international leagues. It's been really cool during this break to just watch Cincinnati kill it internationally, watching Bundesliga. And now with NWSL coming back, I think it would be a really strong statement if Cincinnati, despite not having a NWSL team, could pull really good ranking viewership ratings in those matches. I think that sends a strong signal. If you want an NWSL team in Cincinnati, what better way to signal to the ownership with a recession coming that you would support it still? Let's tune in. Let's watch Rose and see if Washington can't take this thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, like tall Paul Pavarchik's story today on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We'll have a rebuttal from DJ Schweitzer, I think, Tuesday. We play our youth all the time. Speaking of playing our youth, Clay Winstead, give us your final thought, buddy.
I have been really blessed, I feel like, and really grateful, despite Brian's bullying, to have been a part of the podcast these last couple of months. But it was so in that vein, it is so nice to talk actual soccer games and matchups and players and transfer rumors with you guys. Brian and Subes and Jeff and everyone's been trying so hard to pull stories out of this isolation, this quarantine, and we were definitely strained in there for a minute. So it's great to just kind of sink back into it. I'm an anxious person by default, and there's a lot going on in the world that is definitely pulling at that anxiety, but we're getting soccer back. And I think that's a great thing that we can all sort of lean back into. So I'm just glad that it's here. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Very excited. Glad to have you. And know what I'm glad for? It looks like we might have some sort of resolution coming down for Jurgen Locadia. That's what I'm glad for. Our buddy Travis, you ain't lying, had released some news that he's on his way back from his maybe Euro trip to get some family, bring him back to Cincinnati. So that's what the rumor is right now. Hopefully it rings true that we will have him in the arsenal for us to go down to Orlando and kick some butt down there. So hopefully we have some resolution there. Jaap Stam, his era starts now. We're excited to have him there. So got a lot going on to be happy and excited for in FC Cincinnati land. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have the two OGs on. Great to talk to you guys again. And we'll keep bringing more content to everybody listening on Cincinnati Soccer Talk feed. So please keep checking us out at Cincy Soccer Talk on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Check out all our different podcasts along your favorite podcast networks. So for Boston, Brad, Clay, and myself, Brian Weigel, we will see you guys next week on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Bye-bye.